Trinidad Bill Trotman.
Trinidad Bill Trotman.
My real name is Paul. I'm an entertainer, singer, pianist, dancer, comedian, master ceremonies, musician, artist, poet, song and play writer, sculptor, mass man.
Celebrating the life of the great one.
I want to be found in Trinidad, but I don't understand why it is so hard to join a steel band. You must be a politician, resigning every year. Where do we go from here? Band man, pick up your sticks. Play man, play some music. I don't want to hear you say, no band, carnival day, no band, gotta blow away, no band. Pick up your sticks, let me play some music. On Carnival Day, come go in town. Don't care what people say, we gon' shake it down. We gon' keep it clean, that's the streets I mean. Pick your garbage up there, where do we go from here? Band man, play some music. Don't stop, I really like it. I want to hear you play. More band, Carnival Day. More band, let me break way. More band, music to move is a music to groove.
Listen, the thing is, I hear all you head. I hear all you saying a man has lost his life, a man has dead before we come back and do a solo episode. Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. Some people might be seeing this format for the first time. Don't get confused. This is how the thing starts off, right? If you go back to episode 1 to about 200, you go here. It's me alone, I couldn't get a guess. But as I always say, it's something that I miss the people who on Patreon. Thank you for everybody who pays and subscribes to the Patreon, where you get early episodes, bonus episodes, behind the scenes content, and solo episodes. Or should I say, sign up for Patreon, where it's really just a contribution to the cause, because you're supposed to get all those things, but you don't get it often, you know what I mean? Salute to the patrons, salute to everybody who supports on Patreon. Salute to everybody who on YouTube. I see somebody the other day, I never even know like you could do that. You could send a contribution on YouTube, like pay something. So if you're enjoying it, pay something now happen. Man, kind of bills to pay out here, you know. This thing is cheap to keep going, and I hope all you're enjoying it. Thanks for everybody. The response to the podcast is overwhelming. The interviews, I'm glad you all enjoying it. I suppose if you're watching this by now, you probably watch. I know some always play catch up, but this game is not catch up. This game is keep up, right? And you're not going to stop seeing episodes coming out. Episodes going to come at a furious pace, because I think we're right at about the point where we might be going to 2 of them a week. So if you enjoyed, and I want to say, just for some background, like the last 3 weeks we had Dr. Diva Amon, we had Lisa Ghani. You should be done watch Kevin Sawyer by now, and that stretch of recordings that we did, I enjoyed thoroughly. You know what I mean? Diva had the right name, let me put it like that, right? But Diva, we, not just me, but plenty of people interested in what going on deep down in you. I even study things like this. But Diva did it first, and Lisa is Lisa. I can't wait to record it. Lisa promised me that the next time we record, she's bringing champagne. I'm keeping her to that. I'm holding her to these things, right? I mean, pleasure sitting down and talking and recording with some of these people. But I do miss this format. And while it's difficult to make sure that I have the time in between research and edit and all those things to come and do this, where for those of you who knew, all we really do is come here and talk about current affairs. No, we talk about what happened during the course of the week, break down some issues that should be simpler, but people have it in their best interest sometimes to make some issues seem real complicated. To keep people in the wise words of Brigo walking in the dark, you know what I mean? It's in their best interest to do that. So we go talk about it, right? But of course, as busy as it gets and as difficult as it is to do, they have some things that we started as traditions on this thing many, many, many years ago. Let me tell you a short story, right? You know, I'm going to tell all you what I do this week, right? I get out my house, you know. These days, I'm taking a little walk in the morning and I'm trying to get up. I mean, the thing about recording all the time, right, and editing, is you start to see when your face getting rosy, wrong then rosy. It don't look good. So I say, you know what, let me do some exercising and thing. And much to my surprise, I bounced up a man on my walk, right? A man by the name of, shall I call his name Johan? I ain't gonna call him the last name, right? Let's pretend his name is Johan, right? We save the names of people to protect the innocent, or they say it in them documentary and thing. So, the fellas say, boy, hey, wow, see you here, you know what I mean? Nice to see you, nice to meet you. I actually now finished listening to your podcast. So, of course, I was like, well, what episode you listen to? Like, you know what I mean? I thinking, well, Lisa Ghani, we had Diva, we had Anselm Douglas, such great. He said, nah, I went back and listened to episode 2. I said, all right, well, this is embarrassing. Because in my mind, them things, I don't want to bad talk my own work, because plenty of work went into all them things, and nothing better than starting something, right? But didn't sound good at all. I was like, well, why you put yourself through that? And this is a man I'm watching who fit. This man fit. And I saying, but you so fit and you listen to that boring thing while you're doing your run. But it reminded me of some things. And I said, but hey, let me go back and hear what he hear. Because he was reminding me that I was making joke on episode 2 and talking about meeting Wendy Fitzwilliam. It's so interesting to hear some of them things now, because I guess, you know, you speak them things into being and you see it come true over the years. So to hear that from him, I was encouraged. Salute to Johan for taking the time to tell me that and keep me updated on that. As you know, I mean, it's awkward because that was like episode 2. I tried to listen a little bit and I'm feeling shame now. Thank God I walk off when I play episode 2, because like, boy, I put Johan through a lot. But this is what the thing is about. We love the interviews, we love hearing from people, but we have to talk about what is happening in the country is an important part of it. So what I will do as I get back my cadence, this I will keep on YouTube. Most of the time I do these solo episodes, I will keep it on Patreon behind a paywall. Number one, to provide additional benefit for paid subscribers, but also because I just be frightened to talk in this climate. I don't know what you could say versus what you ain't gonna say, and what some people go take as joke and what people take as threat. But I talk loose as a man, but I am joking. So somebody help me to get one of them things saying that the thoughts, views, and opinions of the Corey Shepherd, help me to get one of them drops now. I need one of them drops to tell you that this is fiction. This is not real. You know, Corey Shepherd is a different entity and being and is a fictional character, separate from Corey Shepherd Bab. So if I shouldn't even give all your full name and thing for nobody to send no legal letter, but this is what we do. But as much as we find a struggle with the time to do it, we had to make time when these greats and these icons pass away, because they have contributed so much to what we have become, what we enjoy today, what we have as a culture, and what I get to come and talk about and deal with every week. And you know, the funny thing is, like, for those who don't know, rest in peace to the great Bill Trotman, right? We come to celebrate his life. And what we just typically do around here, for the people who were around here a long time, only bear with me, right? I had to explain to people what this is, because they could be a little confused, right? But we pay homage. That's why I stop saying homage. Pay homage to the people who contribute to it and enjoy the music and enjoy the kaiso and them kind of thing. And as much as I frightened to talk, so I put anything behind paywall, because I'm gonna warn you one time, right? You see these solo episodes, I forget what I talk about and thing, and I cannot remember what I said, right? So asking me about what I say and I was wrong about this, and at a point in time, you used to get this every Tuesday morning without fail, regardless. So if I say something wrong this week, I could just correct that next week, you know, but I don't know if it is work so right now. But Bill Trotman is not one of those people who were fearful of talking. He was very direct, very outspoken. And I remember him doing an exhibition maybe last year. And I was thinking to myself, you know what, we should get Bill Trotman. You know what I mean? He talkative. He was always talkative. But he could talk. So one of my fears about bringing people here is I always want to put the guest in the best light. right? Literally and figuratively. So affordable imports, them fellas are the best light. But the best light in terms of how we plan for the episode too. I wouldn't shy away from any topic. If you have things out there, we go talk. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not that serious. This is we enjoy myself when we come here to talk. So I say, well, all right, I will get Bill Trotman to come on. He looking good. He just had an exhibition, so we had things to talk about. We could talk about his history and things. He's contributed a lot to the tapestry of what we call the fabric of our culture. But I have a real, and only tell me if this makes sense or not, right? Tell me in the comments if I overthinking this or if only want to see this. I struggle with the idea of putting people on camera, especially these kind of camera affordable imports have here where you see every blemish. I wonder if, when people might be up in age or they might be not the best of health, I kind of worry about putting them on camera like that, and then you put them on Instagram, and you only go tell me if I'm overthinking that, because over the weekend, coincidentally, I see Marshall Montano link up with Calypso Rose, and she sang his song Her Majesty Queen of the Road, and was telling him, which Marshall knows. I mean, he's a man who studied the history both in UTT, Dr. Marshall Montano, well, Master's Marshall Montano and honorary doctorate, and also outside of the thing, he's a man who studied this thing, right? But she telling him that is the song that make them change from Calypso King to Calypso Monarch, because if you hear Sparrow and them talk about it, or you talk about people like Sparrow again, talk about their victories, you hear them talk about the Calypso King competition. But when you have a woman there, she make them change it to Calypso Monarch, a competition which has, over 50 years down the road and still have a lot of weight in our culture. And he not hesitating to put her on camera. So I wonder if I'm overthinking it, Am I overthinking it? Am I, but I will do it if it's okay. I just don't want to do anything where the person not looking, especially people like Calypso Rose or Sparrow, or in this case, Bill Trotman. And when things like this happen, I wonder if I'm losing opportunities because of maybe a narrow mindset for myself, maybe it don't matter that much, because as simple as Marshall capturing that little moment with Rose, because I'm sure that, haven't seen how they operate, they might be on camera for a little while, but the fact that he pull out that little piece where he talking to her is because they themselves, he and his team, conscious of the education that they transfer into people. And I am very, very conscious of that. And I don't think it's anybody who have knowledge and stories and things like them, as much as we capture in some of them. So all you go tell me in the comments, right? All you go tell me if it makes sense. Because Bill Trotman is one of them that I feel, as much as I'm happy to do this, I feel like slightly regretful that I didn't make that call and get him to come on. So we will talk some issues today, but the music in this episode and the excerpts of this episode will all come from the great Bill Trotman. All the young people listening to this episode, right? When you play Kaiso here, it's about 15 minutes of music in his hair before the man sing we come to sing, eh? But it's some of the best music you go ever hear.
I know things about me that you never know. Me's the fella you see that'll sing calypso. When I give a joke and hear your laughter, people criticize, but don't do better. You see me, he and she do see me, but I know me and I see me better than you see me. You like me, he and she do like me, but I know me and I like me better than you love me. I see eyes plain to see I'm the eye who's nicer than me. I see eyes plain to see I'm the eye who's nicer than me. I see eye as an ivory eye. I see eye as an ivory eye. say I'm greedy or even ugly, but you don't get more food or loving than me.
Yes.
You see me, he and she too see me, but I know me and I see me better than you see me. You like me, he and she too like me, but I know me and I like me better than you love me. I see eyes plain to see and the eye was nicer than me. I see eyes plain to see and the eye was nicer than me.
The man say, who nicer than me? You know, you damn right. Let me get into some issues of the day now. From The Guardian, Kamala's diplomatic coup. There's something we've been following for a little while now, right? Because I'm not sure what is the stance of Trinidad and Tobago where CARICOM is concerned. But we get some of it cleared up recently. So I'm reading from the great Professor Hamid Ghani, one of the best professors in my days in UWI. One of the best professors I ever learned under. These fellas on them not guessing, they know this stuff. They're well-traveled, well-read, and well-published, you know what I mean? So he goes on to say, from Professor Hamid Ghani, last Tuesday, Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar scored a major diplomatic coup at the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting in St. Lucia. Her proposal to use the Caribbean Court of Justice in its original jurisdiction under Article 212 of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas to provide an advisory opinion to the re-election of the Secretary General was a shot that no one saw coming. That's a lot of words. I forget what it was like to be in Hamid Ghani class. The local, regional, and diasporic commentariat had vilified her for months over her principal position that the current Secretary General, Dr. Carla Barnett, was improperly reappointed back in February this year. She stuck to her guns and they stuck to theirs. Some of them even went so far as to say if she wants Trinidad and Tobago should leave CARICOM, then she should just go. Their myopic approach, I'm fighting for my life here, you know. Their myopic approach in adopting the classic hegemonic culture of regional politics could never envisage a strategy of unity in disagreement. Here, look, Hamid, this is a lot. Why are we doing this? This is the most complicated thing for me. I should have known when I see Hamid Ghani was coming in. So here was the scene. Earlier in this year, whenever the last time we do a solo episode, I was talking about Kamala going to the Honorable Right Kamala Persad-Bissessar. Let me be careful what I say here. This is not Patreon, you know. About going to CARICOM and basically almost taking a position that Trinidad and Tobago don't need CARICOM that much. In summary, in my opinion, they look at it as if she was saying that, hey, we don't really need this. Don't get twisted. We are still who we are. I'm not sure if that's true, but we are still who we are, and so on. And we have our own alignments now, and we will not align with anything if CARICOM have these initiatives and this viewpoint. It's time to change that, or we will be fine. You know what I mean? Which I suppose if everybody does be fine in the long run, I'm gonna put it like that. But one of her major criticisms was the appointment of Dr. Carla Barnett, and. So now it's going to go to the CCJ. Well, the agreement is that they're going to use the CCJ to review it and see what is happening. Well, all of that has been undone with the master stroke of the letter of the PM of Trinidad and Tobago, or the letter that from the PM that laid out the case for accepting the impropriety and proposing that it be referred to the CCJ as for an advisory opinion. The glum faces around the chairman, PM Philip Peyer of St. Lucia, when he read out the announcement of the referral were a picture that told 1,000 words of disappointment. Dr. Ghani, this letter is just in support of your purpose. So, having to concede on this matter was a major blow to the majority, who insisted that they were right. They underestimated Persad-Bissessar, who has served more time in opposition than in government. She understood clearly how to fight this battle, and she was able to show that as a minority of one, she could overcome their flawed majority decision. And she got them all to agree with her proposal. The opposition here had called upon regional leaders to resist any attempt by Persad-Bissessar to revive the matter. They ignored that call. She solved the problem. She solved the problem for the region. All right, Dr. Ghani. So, in summary, I wonder now if this is going to be reviewed, because if your suggestion is that an independent body or the independent courts, which is that is what is there for, review this, and they review and they said that, okay, it's proper, what do we do next? Or is it that when you review this and it's overturned, we back good friends with CARICOM, or we still waiting on CARICOM decisions and where they're going to align and so on? the reason I keep paying attention to this issue with CARICOM, and I feel like, firstly, we should get people to write less complicated articles so that the average man could understand what it is they're reading when they're talking. And a balanced approach to it, to say what the average person should be thinking is, because I think the average man home not thinking about CARICOM in any major way, except when it's time for me to get a work somewhere or time for me to travel somewhere. And that should not be the case, because what happens with CARICOM, regardless of what people might say or where the rhetoric is now, it affects how we live here. So, in my time, and I talk about people like Dr. Ghani, people like Roger Hossain, people like Kirk Mayhew, because a lot of them were facilitators. Ghani was undergrad, right? But when I was doing masters in Lockjack, they were the lecturers. Terence Batiste Cornelis, people who lecture in any space. Back then, and I talk about 2004, 5, 6, right? The discussion was around Trinidad and Tobago running out of oil and gas at some point in time. The year that they were talking about was around 2020. And we would not be able to produce at the levels we produced at ever again, because oil and gas is a finite resource the last time I checked, right? And I listened to them talk about this, and I listened to a lot of people talk about diversification. And the whole idea behind diversification, like any other, like in personal life and household life, so whether micro or macro, diversification is just not putting all your egg in one basket, right? That's all it is at the end of the day. So that if rain starts to fall, so you have protection on this side, it diversify your portfolio. So the idea behind diversification is that as a country, when you look at a bar chart of where Trinidad earns its money, Trinidad and Tobago, I want to tell you all the money is from oil and gas, because under Roger Hossain, I'm young and in academics for the first time, so I see in this thing, and it is shocking, it's jarring to see, because there's a huge bar chart when you look at oil and gas and all byproducts of petrochemicals, right? And then the closest thing to it back then, I'm talking about 20 years ago, right? The closest thing to it was light manufacturing and food and beverage and those things, right? So when I look at the scholars, the best and brightest we have in the country, saying that, hey, we're going to run out of this resource that we're so dependent on, because the oil and gas revenue is what allows us to live the lifestyles we live in Trinidad and Tobago. You could eat and get diabetes, how much ever you want, and you get your foot cut off for free. You know what I mean? We have a public healthcare system that is open and available to anybody. Could walk in with any ailment, affliction, any concern. You could go in a public healthcare system. You could get free education all the way up to secondary level and advanced secondary in terms of A levels. But it could also get free education in tertiary all the way up to PhD if you qualify, because if you could prove that you can't afford it, you could still apply and get government funding for it, right? We get food cards, we get all these different types of things, we get a carnival that is heavily funded by the government, we get several religious festivals that the government contributes. Well, let me say the taxpayer, right? The taxpayer contributes to. So we live a lifestyle, and then we get roads and infrastructure and all these different things that we drive on and have a good time. And if you travel to other countries, you're going to see the differences between countries that earn proper money and countries that not. So when you go to the countries that the World Cup playing in now, you go to the US or you go to Canada as two examples, right? You're going to see a certain level of infrastructure and a standard and quality of life. A lot of it is hinged upon how much the country earns. Now, when they line up their industry and you watch their bar chart, or their industries, and you watch their bar chart, you might see several bar charts that all different height, right? But they have, again, a very, very diversified income stream, and we don't. We have basically one income stream. And the issue when you have an income stream that is it's strong, because petrochemicals ain't going nowhere. Let me put a pin in that statement, right? Petrochemicals seem to be not going anywhere. But I talking to some fellas the other day, and the amount of people I hear now talking about switching to electric cars, for instance, you could see where the demand for oil and gas could shift, right? But when you have so much of your egg in the one basket, if that basket fall and them egg break, we have a sharp fall off on quality of life and standard of living and what we think is normal here that I'm not sure if we're prepared for. I don't know if we're prepared for it as a society. We believe that the government owe we something. And it comes down to that oil and gas dependency, that whole idea of Dutch disease, they used to call it, right? We feel like you should be able to walk in the hospital and things should be built and the road had to fix. And we talk about things like if they have there's no budget for it, there's no limited income. So as far as we're concerned, the government is well, number one, separate from the taxpayer. In other words, we don't connect how much we pay on a month end as tax to what the government has. We don't make them two connections at all. We also believe that the government, in which, and when I say government, mean political party, we think that the government of Trinidad and Tobago have unlimited funds, and if they're not fixing the road, they're wicked and they don't like people in this area. And if they're not cutting the grass, they're wicked. They don't like people. They're only fixing them areas and they're not fixing. None of that works that way. You have a finite amount of money. I saw Mariano Brown talking the other day about the government being more accountable to the people for its drawdowns and the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. And again, a very learned, these fellas and them, they're not guessing. They don't know what they know what they're saying. They say it in a very complicated way, and for somebody like me who can't read so well, it's very hard to decipher, but he's right. We have a Heritage and Stabilization Fund, which basically worked in a way with, at its most basic level, we set our budgets every year pegged on some kind of oil price, right? And per barrel. And when we say, all right, we're expecting an oil price of $60 a barrel, we budget out what we need to do. It's two kind of basic expenses, right? There's recurrent expenditure, like you have to pay people every month, and then there's a capital expenditure, like you have to build buildings and build hospitals and stadiums and so on. None of which you will use, of course, but you have to build them, right? So when you set your budget at $60 a barrel, and you watch how much barrel you have, you multiply the total amount of barrel you have by the $60, and you see what's your total amount of money you go have this year. And when you have that total amount for this year, this is what we're making decisions on. So when they say this going to the Ministry of Health, $2 billion, so this going to Tobago, this going to national security, is that pool of money that they're splitting up that they expect to earn over the course of the year? Now, let me talk about your personal budget here, right? When last you budget, I can tell you, I just budget $0 for food drop every month. Nothing. I say food drop does not arise. And then when I see the food drop bill, I'm upset because I'm only making it to the 15th, 16th of the month these times. Remember to subscribe to our Patreon and do the YouTube thing where I don't even know what it's called it, the donations, according to Dr. Umar. Donations on YouTube, right? We accepting that because the 15th of the month, if you're only making it to the 15th, is rough times. So when you look at the lifestyle that we get accustomed to and the total budget, the government of the day trying to manage that budget just like how we manage our household budget to see, well, all right, we're going so, because we had to keep these people happy, keep them living the lifestyle they're living, and hopefully because of that they say we governing real good and they re-elect we and we here, right? But that's a very, very difficult to do because difficult thing to do. Every dollar you take from somewhere, you're a dollar short. I don't know if we ever look at it like, I guarantee you, the average man thinks that the government have billions of dollars and anything that they're not fixing is because they're wicked. Talk to people, you go find out, right? And although if you have a degree, you're not the average man, and let me take that out of the equation. You're in about 20% of our society like this, if that, right? So when I look at that approach to budgeting, you might say, all right, well, that means we have, let me talk about your household. You have a $20 for the month, bam. But every time you do something in that household that was not catered for in that budget, it affects something else you could do. So when I food drop down the place, something had to not get paid. Usually in this case, unfortunately, is me, because at this point in my life, what it affects is my savings and those types of things and my investment. I don't take it seriously enough by any stretch of the imagination. Imagine you're living where you just have enough money to pay your rent and buy groceries. That's all you have, right? And your rent due the first of the month, so your last month and pay. You could take the money and pay your rent. Your rent might be, like, say your rent is $2,500, right? You take the $2,500 and then your groceries coming up to $1,000, $3,500. And let me say your household income is $3,500. That means your money done. It's over. You don't have any more money. Now you could only figure out two things from there. You could either reduce the amount you're paying in rent, which is almost impossible to do in the short run. You can't go and tell your landlord, I'll go pay a little less rent. I go change my rent to $2,200 to let it work so. Your rent stuck. But if your groceries, now if your groceries are 1,000, you could say, well, all right, well, I go eat a little less. I will figure out how to eat less, you know what I mean? I will stop wash clothes with Breeze. I go wash clothes with Lime. Whatever it is you have to do, you could adjust that figure because that variable figure there on a monthly, you could see some more that. Something major come and happen, you know what I mean? You say, boy, listen, you go on thing, you twist your foot, you're going. We could run any public hospital if that happened. So I could live with the 3,500 and if something happened to me, put a spank. But if that facility is taken away, your 3,500 now gets smaller because if something happens to you and you have to pay a doctor every time you go into the hospital, like some societies, you have a problem. Or you have to have an insurance card before they lay you in, you have a problem. So we might see our own budgets as finite, but somehow see the government budget as infinite, and it's not. So when I have my 3,500, the other option I have other than adjusting my lifestyle and reducing my cost of living is to earn more money. Now, in some societies or with some individuals, you might be included in this, I might be included in this. My way of earning more money, I automatically think of what else can I do? Podcast is one. I'm just busting my average, you know what I mean? But I could really talk, you know. So say if I talk about one thing and I get a sponsor, it ain't work out yet. But we get in there. But I automatically think of, all right, what else can I do? Where am I of value? What other skill I have? In other words, I could pick up another job. I could try and start another business. I could go any business I have and try and sell more products, whatever it might be. Because now I'd adjust 3,500. I had to make my income into 4,500 to get to whatever it is I want. That is how we might think as individuals. I want you to appreciate that they also have people who say, my $3,500 not working for me no more, pay me more money because I can't live and I need more money and your money is infinite. And if you don't pay me more money and I can't live, you are wicked. That is I'm trying to stop saying that it's a Trinbagonian thing because it's probably a human thing. But I want you to appreciate that that is what is being said in society a lot. When I say I have basically worked and been doing the same job for the last 30 years, but I deserve more money for that job because the prices have gone up and I must now keep up with that. I don't know that if the price of the thing gone up, that automatically means that the business make more money. The business probably ain't make, if anything, the business could be making less. But sometimes the attitude is like, pay me more. I show up here every day. It costs me this to show up every day. Taxi fare going up, pay me more. And in the private sector, you might get that, right? You might get a little more. People might say, all right, well, boy, listen, you think, get them a little more traveling. But I want to tell you that at some point in the private sector, you will go home. It's brutal, but it's true. At some point in the private sector, the man who owned the business go say, boy, you know, I could only afford to pay 2 people. I can't keep 4 people. I can't keep 4. I have an interview coming out with a man here in some time. It will take a little while, but I really like talking to entrepreneurs by this table, you know. I like talking to entrepreneurs because he said during COVID, he started to sell just to keep his staff. He talked about how much vehicles, he had panel vans and things, he sell the panel vans, he do. Nobody, they're not feeling sorry for you, nobody they just feel when you hear him and you hear the name, you just say, matter of fact, a man put him in a song, he say, I was rich like Chandler. You just think that he might have money. And with the money he have, he could do whatever he wants and his resources infinite. We think that's about business people. You hear it all the time. That man has real money. He driving a nice car, he living in a nice area. He has real money. Why he can't pay me my... And the attitude is that pay me more, even though I have done nothing more. It's easier to understand on an individual level or the level of a household. I just want you to appreciate that it when you break it down, it's not much different at governmental level. Because the government had to do things to make money. One of the ways that the government is make money is to take ours, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Let's just take it. Render unto Caesar. One of the main income streams of our government is to take 25% of your things. Or 30% of your things if you have a business, and then 25% of where you pay yourself, and then we used to put everything in the car and everything, and then they say benefit in kind, so they will withdraw from the society. And it's fair. Taxation, I feel, to be without I don't know what's the better system. I'm not talking about the rate of tax and what they do with the tax dollars. I'm just saying that from a societal standpoint, they was learned from Hamid Ghani and them back in the day, men like John Legay and Hamid Ghani and so on. And Dr. Bissessa was her name too. As a society, it's are things we need. We need a road, we need lighting and them kind of things. So I okay as a society are taking a portion of whatever I earn and putting it towards a pool of money where everybody could do a little better off, right? So that's one of the ways the government is, but also the government is earn money from selling things. So think of it like this, right? If individual income tax is 25%, the only way for the government to earn more money from income tax is for you, the individual, to make more money. Because if you're making 10,000, I could take 2,500 from you. But if you make 100,000, I could take 25,000 at the simplest level, right? So now I could get more money to fix more problems, because basic economics will tell you problems are infinite. Needs and wants and all them things. Need, want, opportunity, problem, all them things is the same thing, and all of them infinite. But resources are finite. Resources are, a matter of fact, very limited. So when you look at the individual who might go on the picket line and say, pay me more money because cost of living going up, and I don't care. It's not my concern if you make more money or what. I want more money, and I'm not coming to work unless I get that more money. I mean, I understand it. But I just want you to appreciate that when the government had to make a decision now to pay people more money, and they're not getting anything else out of that. Because like I tell you, if I want more money, I start a lecture, I start a podcast, let me see if that make money. Right now, I'm looking to start our OnlyFans at the rate we go in here and say, well, I'm trying to lose. Anytime I lose weight, I have my Instagram body immediately. Let me see if I'll get some influencer money. But when you pay people and you do more things, that means nothing else is produced. There's nothing else made. So it's like, where the extra money going to come from to pay you? Maybe I could tax people more. Maybe that's one of the options, because when you're not doing anything more to help us as a society, to help the government make more money, and then if since 2004, 5, 6, the experts saying that we're going to run out of oil and gas, the biggest bar in my bar chart, going to start to chop down, right? Then the question begs, we're going to earn less but pay people more? Think of it from a household standpoint. From a household, the household was making 10 grand, right? I go into work the day, my madam get a pay cut by 1,000, I get a pay cut. So now the household making 8 grand. And out of that 10 grand, I was giving my children $1,000 a month as what is called that thing now, allowance. Would it be reasonable to, when my pay get cut, to give that child more? Maybe it is. But if now you go from 1,000 to 2,000 after your pay going down to 8,000, that means you only have $6,000 left to run the household. So something have to adjust. Some part of your lifestyle have to adjust. It is the reality. It is very, very difficult to adjust lifestyle on a micro level when it's just me and you talking. On a societal level, boy, if it's hard on a micro level, think of it when it's millions of people, or 1.5 million. Very, very difficult. So I think the government of today is facing a reality. Another we want to say of today, the government because if I know in lockjack, and me, I don't know a thing. If I get to learn, this episode getting chaotic. If I get to learn that in lockjack 20-something years ago, these fellas know that 30 years ago, right? It's the best and brightest, as I say. So if they know this, and they see in that bar chart going down and down and down and down, I would think that, listen, number one, we had a sensitized society to where it is. They didn't like him birth on them, and they didn't like them fellas, but them fellas was doing our work to do that, because he was basically saying, hey, we can't continue like this. This gate had to cut. Gate being what is it called? Government assistance to tertiary education. The food card thing that had to go, the laptop thing that had to go. So the government trying to say, I can't get you allowance of 1,000 again, my money going down. But society doesn't accept that well, and the likely outcome of that is it gets voted out. You know what I mean? It gets chased away into the darkness. Nobody don't want to hear from you again. That is it. Bye. Punto final. Nice knowing you. So back to that whole idea of diversification. What the hell all this had to do with CARICOM? The thing is, when you look at, if you remove, which Roger Hossain has, to me, a really good lecturer, removed the bar that was oil and gas and showed us the rest of the economy and what we earn. And as I say, it was food and beverage and light manufacturing, right? I think then is an important thing to look at those other areas and say, okay, which one of these can I support to get that bar as high at least as the fall off of the oil and gas bar, and then really have a diversified economy. But people have been arguing this since I know myself. I born 80, and people arguing this thing. I've met a DAX driver who was the head of the energy chamber one time. He make a lot of sense too, because he was talking about a thing in, they used to teach us in POB and thing called comparative and absolute advantage and all of that. And he basically said that Trinidad and Tobago don't have an advantage in the region when it comes to the production. Well, the finding all the way down to the production of oil and gas products. And he's saying to diversify the economy is not to diversify away from oil and gas, but he's saying to diversify within oil and gas. And he was always pushing this idea that, okay, so we do exploration and we find crude. And I still talk about crude because I born a long time, right? But it's mostly gas these days. But we do exploration and we find crude, and then we could also do refining and make petroleum jelly and so on, or whatever the hell he's doing at a refinery. And he was basically saying have so many things that you could do. And he, in a sense, he's right, because now where Guyana is the oil and gas giant in the region now. If not yet, they're en route. I feel it on there already because we looking like we floundering a little bit, you know. But the thing about it is, we provide a lot of services and a lot of labor for the Guyanese market now because we've just been in the industry for longer. We're in the industry since the 70s. So that whole idea of having an advantage, and his thing is focus on the advantages. You know what I mean? Like how Argentina focusing on the referees being their advantage. He focus on the advantages, and that's where we are. If you want to look at that argument differently, or look at the people who say broaden it, because we getting even more deep in oil and gas. So if it disappear with alternative energy sources and so on coming on stream, and you want to look at the others, if you're looking at light manufacturing and food and beverage, when the man showed the bar chart for the oil and gas, I think at that point in time, about 80-something% of the products that we had was being sent to the US. When you look at the other things that we have, it was 80-something% being sent to CARICOM. So if you travel throughout the region, you would see, and it's something that I feel proud of. I mean, and it's be a bone of a contention up CARICOM, which, I mean, I wish we would figure out how to live together and enjoy one another company. We should be, instead of arguing if double's better than patty, we should just be so glad that we live in a region where we could get both jerk chicken versus curry chicken and chicken curry. I find some of the most stupid arguments I ever hear in my life. Like, enjoy everything the Caribbean have to offer. So when I look at our light manufacturing or that food and beverage, and I look at CARICOM being our biggest market, I was a little worried when we take in statements to CARICOM that say, hey, we ain't bong for you. We go thing and we this. So I'm happy when I see statements that read more like we are committed to CARICOM and we remain a vested partner. And thing. I guess I am always for diplomacy. Yeah? You see this new world where world leaders just say wild things on Twitter and thing. I'm not accustomed to this. Let me whisper. I'm not accustomed to this. That is bothering me a little bit. I can't get with that. I find that is a very risky thing, and I expect more of the people who are in power. I think if you're in power and we vote for you and we put you there and stuff, I expect your conduct to be different. So I was even looking at this. There's a situation brewing between Suzette Lowe and Philip Alexander. Two political activists, but no, I mean, one political activist and one out politician, you know what I mean? Minister in the Ministry of Labor, you know what I mean? There's the right honorable and all these things come in, you know. So, and some of the things that I see being said is that both of them just be too outlandish and just want to say thing, and why they coming down on him and they're not coming down on her because she just say, and maybe that's true. I find both of them is talk a little loose, but my expectation of one is much higher than my expectation of the other. Because when you're an armchair backseat driver politician, I always believe, and maybe naively so, that you could talk and say whatever you want, that will work against you anyway, but maybe it's working for you now. But when you are a sitting man in the government, right, as a minister in the Ministry of Housing, and that 25% I take in, or they taken from me, my 25% that they taken from me every month, plus my 30% that they take at the end of every year, and that going towards a pool of money, and that pool of money now, which makes the national budget, some of that national budget going towards the Ministry of Housing. So you are charged with the responsibility of what to do with my portion of that 25%. My expectation of you is higher. I expect you to be more measured, more contained, more diplomatic, more forthcoming, more, hardworking, more focused on issues. It's like I looking at a situation now where I watching a government every day, and this used to real bother me back in 2016 and thing. When boy, listen, when Rollers and the gang had get back in power the last time, I don't think anything used to irk me more than them talking about UNC or the partnership or what. I was like, listen, they lost. They lost. You beat them. I find when you beat people, you probably shouldn't even mention them name again. Nobody don't want to hear about them. They lost. It's about a reason we put you back there. We don't want to hear about them again. We fed up with them gone. Focus on where it is with governance. And boy, fast forward to today. I trying to read the news and things, but I can't tell you we have a whole government, and I can't tell you the last time I heard them say anything about governance. It's insane. I mean, I don't know what is going on. They're just saying all kind of random things and picking fights with people. But when I look, going back to that diversification, when I look at what CARICOM means to us in terms of market, and when I say us, I mean a businessman. You trying to make something here and sell, and you only have 1.5 million people here who could buy something. I would think that you want to sell to more than 1.5 million people to increase the amount of revenue you're making, which in turn increases the amount of that 30% that the government could collect. And that 30% could fix more road, do more blogs, pay more Instagram influencers, people in WhatsApp. It could do a lot of things. So I would think that you really want people to boost where they reach, and that's one of the roles of governments or even diplomacy in governments. Make relations from country to country to make sure that we have markets. So I always wonder how the biggest businesses in this country, the biggest manufacturers, feel about the rhetoric towards CARICOM and where we are. But I mean, maybe without going into too much detail on things that happen now, so that I could maintain my freedom. I wonder how the biggest business people feeling at all when the biggest manufacturers, lock up and all thing. But again, thing that me and one part of I want to talk about. But as I say, I really here to celebrate the life and times of the great Bill Trotman. And as much as I enjoy being here talking about things like this, I didn't think it about take more I enjoy than Kaisona. And this is a song by the great Bill Trotman called, maybe aptly named for this segment, Stupid Questions.
If a man can see, he can see. He don't have to act so stupidly. If a woman don't know, she don't know. She don't have to ask stupid questions. So some people don't really bug me as man with a silly, stupid question. I call off a tree, my head stick in the dirt. Make girl asking me, darling, how you hurt? I say, don't ask me no stupidness. What happened to me is my business. I was looking for a latrine, so I'm walking upside down to keep it in. Wife, you know that he nearly lose his life. Just as they start to have their share, the husband asks what's going on in here. The man say, I'm waiting to catch a bus. The husband said, that's man, he start to cuss. He said that you better get it fast. The only one you get now is bus head. I tell him, don't ask me no foolishness. What happened to he is his business. If you didn't ask it for stupidness, he couldn't mash up all your business. Last night I lay down in my bed, didn't cover up me foot or me head. My wife by the door they peeping and asking me if I am sleeping. Man, I'm so vexed, I want you to know. Only Kai Sonia, so say and I peeping too. I better find something for you to do.
As we continue to celebrate the life of the great Bill Trotman, stay with me. Talking manufacturing still with Nestlé's future operations in the balance, dairy farmers hope government steps in to help. This is from Shaliza Hassan Ali in The Guardian. Dairy farmer John Leonard is hoping the government comes up with a solution to keep them gainfully employed after Nestlé announced it had begun a strategic review of its operation in Trinidad and Tobago, including exploring the possible sale of its dairy and juices business. Now, Nestlé has been making changes for some years now, right? I see Nestlé reorganizing for some time. I remember when you used to play sports back in the day. All of them are Newtown boys, and they get Milo. Milo used to sponsor all the sports and them. And it's heavy sugar in that cocoa, whatever the hell they used to make Milo with. It's sweet bad. The other day I drink a Milo from my son, I said, but it's one of the worst thing I ever taste. You know what I mean? Because we are accustomed to heavy. We were drinking Milo syrup. So they've been making adjustments and changing over the years, but now, I mean, Nestle is still definitely in the dairy business, but if they're going to stop dairy manufacturing in Trinidad, I don't know that all of a sudden the market going to lose its taste for milk. So I'm assuming that it means they will get their dairy somewhere else, manufacture somewhere else, and export to Trinidad. Being a manufacturer here, you're supporting, because as a business, and I think there's a general contempt sometimes we have for businesses and business people that I'm not sure that I understand, but maybe I'm on the wrong side or the right side of the fence. But a business shutting down is a very sad thing. Like we work for Unilever. I see Unilever still operating at a high level, but not the level they were at in terms of manufacturing and stuff. And this is years ago. All this affected by the same oil and gas. I will get back to that. But when a business set up here, it's plenty things had happened for a business to operate, because where they were getting milk from to manufacture, where they were getting fruits in terms of manufacturing the juices and so on, or the sugar from. So think about it. Some years ago, we wisely or otherwise shut down the sugar, what do you call the thing now? Usine St. Madeleine, what we used to call it again, currently 1975 Limited. We've seen this. You see, like, some of these things not, like, if you was paying attention, you'd see where some of these things going. I'm going to put it like that, right? But Leonard, let me get back to Leonard here. For years, Leonard said Nestle did not support and encourage farmers to make the industry viable. As far as I'm concerned, they can pack up and go from here. We don't need them. If you can't do better, pack up and go. All right, Leonard, you coming out hard. They have to pack up and go if they cannot take the farmers' milk. If you want somebody else... If you want to get somebody else and sell over the company to somebody else, it's better you give each farmer $1 million and we'll go handle the story. Yeah, Leonard, that's going to happen. Nestle is a Swiss multinational food and drink processing company with a subsidiary in Val, saying the company has been operating in TNT for more than 60 years. The unexpected announcement of the dairy plant sale has been met with mixed reaction among farmers who have supplied and sold raw milk to Nestle for decades. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar has directed 2 ministers to meet with Nestle's representatives to work on the matter. With the company going on the market, well, meaning the selling the company, 200 jobs could be lost. As a second-generation farmer, Leonard 70 said the news was disturbing. He says it's not a nice feeling. I mean, my heart reached out to him, because the thing about it is, you see, when you set up business, the farm is a business for him, right? He have his cows and he getting milk, and you have a guaranteed market once you have Nestle here doing processing. If Nestle come and announce that they're going to shut this thing down, you've set up your business to supply Nestle, and they're no longer there. And there might not be anybody else to sell all this milk to. So as anybody else, you're worried about your future. Now you're seeing a real situation here where that 10,000 you're making every month could go down to 8,000, because now what you gotta do, sell milk 1-1. They're not set up to do that. They might still sell milk 1-1, but it will never replace the demand for a company like Nestle. Now the hope is that who is another major manufacturer in milk in the world, boy? Me, no, but whoever is Nestle competitor, hopefully they buy the processing plant, if that's what it is, and pick up from there, and then Leonard is unaffected. But how likely is that? He says now his son is also stepping into the family business, continuing the tradition. He estimated that his family has invested $5 million in pens, tractors, milking machines, and equipment for his farm. He say, again, it's no little bit of cows we have. This is what send us to school. There's a real situation. He said, but when the impending sale of the plant, Leonard said the future is bleak. Because now you have to figure out, when you set up to supply a company like Nestle, I'm glad he said it the way he said it too. It's not no little bit of cows. We sometimes picture these things and you watch a farmer like it's some rinky-dink operation. A farmer is a business. And it could be a very big business if you're doing it at scale, and you have to do it at scale to supply somebody like Nestle. We live on an island and nothing to leave here but by plane and by boat. So it's not like he could easily now say, well, all right, well, I go sell my milk. You know what I mean? In a big country like the States or in big land masses like Europe, you might be able to make a deal with a neighbor. You might have a neighboring country that you could carry a thing to and sell it over there. But when you're on an island, you have a problem. Go back to my last part where I was talking about CARICOM being the biggest market we in. If Leonard could send him milk up the road, we have a good thing. But if the Prime Minister's here and the Prime Minister's up the road and getting along, because CARICOM is a trading arrangement, a part of the thing is they go treat us favorably or treat your partners favorably who within the region. So what happens to Leonard and his milk? And what does any of this had to do with oil and gas? We're seeing it over and over. And maybe I read about it in textbooks and them kind of thing when we had the oil boom in the 70s, and then in the 80s we born in a according to Ozzie Merrick, great Ozzie Merrick, say, you know, they call it boom generation when they was talking about Rapso back in the day, and they had home front and thing called the boom generation. Well, we're the recession generation, the ones who born in the 80s. We know what the recession is. We know what is negative list, and you can't bring in this and you can't bring in that. That's what we grew up on. We knew what that was. And I think we're living through that now, and we will live through it as children, some of us, and we know what it is, because what had mattered to me then was Kellogg's Frosted Flake and them thing. But as adults now, who had to make decisions on behalf of families, I think we're feeling the pinch of what the society is. Because when you have an oil and gas advantage, right, and you have people who, like Nestle, who want to have business in this region, right? They realize that, all right, this region has 7 million people. I mean, and if that's just English speaking, it could be double plus if you add the other languages in the region. And then we're right close to South America too, you know, we could do a deal with them. And for Nestle, they want all the markets in the world. They want the whole world drinking their milk, right? They have a choice to make now. Well, boy, we're going to need a processing plant. We're going to need somewhere to set up things. They say, where we go do it? And they say, well, Wally needs to be able to do it. What's the thing that will cause it to do it? He said, well, boy, here now, we're going to need some cows. Because we want to have to import milk from nowhere. We want a place where have an industry for farming, right? We want to do that. We had a dairy. And then they start to look around now for places to go. They say, well, else you need? They say, well, boy, the construction, we need that as a project. That is a one-off and thing, so we could get that done. We could bring in new people to do that. They say, all right, cool. What about running the plant, boy? How you fueling that? They say, well, boy, we need this amount of gas, this amount of that, because that had to happen. So when they're going around looking for places, we, as a country, Trinidad and Tobago, we don't have no advantage over people in this region when it comes to farming. When it comes to farming, check Guyana, check maybe Jamaica. But we have a very small, unlimited amount of land. It's an island, small. But one of the things that we do have is oil and gas. So when we go now, and Nestle come here and they say, boy, we want to set up thing in the region. I want to meet with 6 all here, because 6 all here have different things. All here have plenty land down there, all here have thing, all here this, all here that. One of the reasons that Trinidad and Tobago ended up with our manufacturing sector, and thank God we had something that was able to match that bar chart, right, is because the powers that be, the best and the brightest, right? And I'm talking about the Eric Williams these days and the Robbie and them fellas and them, that era, 70s, 80s governance we're talking about here. They go to somebody like Nestle and say, hey, just think of the World Cup, right? The way FIFA does work, FIFA does sit down and like a hefe and say, all right, what are you going to do for me? What are you going to do for me? All you want to host the World Cup, what shall you all do for I? And then everybody say, well, hey, what? We have 6 stadiums. This stadium is this city is that, Philadelphia, Syria, Barcelona, and then we are New Jersey. Here where we go partner up with Mexico too. And we go get Guadalajara, some of the most iconic things. Remember 86, and they put together what they call a bid package. It's the same thing go happen with big companies like Nestle. You put together a package now, and you are Trinidad and Tobago. You go in this meeting now. You hear Brazil now do their presentation. This one, people want the plant. Because if I can bring the plant here, I could create 200 jobs. I could get my milk from right here, possibly have a lower cost of milk to people. I'm going to get re-elected, right? So from a governance standpoint, I had to make this thing happen. That's what we're here for. So I go in that meeting. Breezy. I cool. That's one of my easiest presentation if I'm Trinidad and Tobago. Because when I go in there, I say, hey, what is this scene? Them fellas and them have land, them have all to the cow and all them kind of thing. Me ain't bong for that. So here I get you. You see the gas to run your plant, what I know is one of the biggest expenses you have. I get you that free for the first year and a half. And I get you preferential prices. We go subsidize the gas price. And then they will say, wow, because that's one of the biggest expenses they have, right? They say, what? You could do that for us? It's like, yeah. Oh, nobody's surprised by this. Because that's why we end up on the list to bid in the first place. But they say, you'll do that? They say, yeah. So, hey, what? I will give you a tax break for this amount of time. I will give you gas at a subsidized price. I will think, I hand you that. Bow. But they say, but you no cow. How we go get milk? I say, you don't worry yourself. I go and buy a whole bunch of cow seedlings. How cows just grow? I'm going to buy a whole bunch of cow and bring them in from thing. You see the same place with them promising you thing. The man who now leave he thing there from Brazil. I go and buy cow from he. Import, because remember oil and gas money. So I could give you a preferential or favorable price on oil and gas. But I could also take the earnings that I have from oil and gas, because we earning a lot as a country on the taxes on oil and gas revenue. And I could say, well, here what? I go import some cow. I'll get some Brazilian cow. I'll say, what kind of cow? Spanish? What kind of, I will bring in. And but they say, but you have no farmers. Fear not. I'm going to start a whole program called the blah, 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 blah farming program, right? And I go and teach people how to farm. I ask Leonard where he get in the farming business, right? So ask him how he know about farming. The government would come and say, here what? Anybody interested in farming? And then they go and say, but here what? We'll go up on the north coast and do the farming, you know what I mean? And then they say, no, you can't put the farm on a hill, no, brother. It's have to be flat. They say, good, but here what? Carson Field. They say all around Cashew Garden, all they flat. Let me go and talk to the people down there. You know what I mean? They live in country life anyhow. I go down there and I say, here, where's the scene? I will get into farming. I giving you all the education you need on farming through places like the Imperial Agricultural University. I go send you university, I will let you know about farming. I go get you all these seeds. What the hell is make cows? Cows is make cows. I go get you everything you need. I keep saying seeds because when I hear farming, I'm thinking wheat, right? But I go get the cows. I go get the thing. I go teach you about rearing cows and breeding and whatever you need to do and milking cows and which cow could make beef and which cow could give milk and I will give them to you, right? That's yours. I will get you a start. So I get you the education. I get you the livestock. I say, you know what, look too sharp to I get the land. If you want to do it, I get you an acre to start. And that's where a lot of our industries start. Go and look back at where we start with sugar. Well, don't look at the original start of sugar, right? That was a little bit, we still have PTSD from that. But if you look at the way our industry started, a lot of it is that. I always remember our partner who played music with me, salute to Nolly, me too. He was telling me at time the government giving away pump city. This time is seed, right? He said they will give you the pump city and teach you how to grow pump city if you take your land and you grow pump city on it. So if you have farming land anyway, you just have to show them that you have land to plant. I believe, and I hope I'm not wrong about this, but the land didn't even matter to be yours. You just had to have, if you have a letter of comfort from somebody who say you could use the land, they was giving you the pump city and teaching you how to plant it and helping you, sending Ministry of Agriculture to help you with pesticide, this, that. You're getting business management, everything. And when you're done and your pump city grow, the government was buying all your pump city, guaranteed market. This is the kind of things you could do when you're oil and gas. The reason for that pump city thing was to, I believe at the time, to supply manufacturers of ketchup and these kind of things. All they need is pulp, right? So tomato ketchup make from pump city and pumpkin and all these things. But that's where the the whole idea of we having a dairy industry comes from that. So we set that up to put Nestlé there. So when Nestlé say, you're going to do all this, how long this going to take you? I say, well, boy, election is in 5 years, so got to take me about 2-3 years, and because I going to need them votes. Right? And they work it out, and that's where we are. So when you see we reach this point now where you're seeing in retail, in manufacturing, in several sectors, you're seeing a scaling back of the bigger businesses and are pulling out, in some cases, the biggest businesses. it comes down to the same thing. It comes down to the same oil and gas dependency, because now we cannot give them the same guarantees that we had. We're not as competitive as we used to be. They've been here for how much ever years. So it ain't making sense. Add that a highly inflated wage bill and a minimum wage on top of that, an inflation rate that going, and that's where when I hear governance, I expect to hear about macroeconomic concerns. What is the inflation, unemployment, all these different things, like how we addressing that. So I'm not surprised that the government is trying to intervene and, I guess, reason with Nestlé and negotiate and see how we could get them to stay and keep it favorable. Or even looking at other global manufacturers of milk or those types of products to see who will buy the plant. And because you want to protect not just the 200 jobs there, but you want to protect people like Leonard. Because on a micro level now, if, as he say, all my livelihood there, and it goes away immediately, then the society has an issue. What does Leonard do? What do his children do? How will they continue to mind their families and they can become contributing members of society? I see in it here, they say, let me just read from here, right? So that all you know. In 2014, the sector had 150 farmers who sold 3.94 million liters of milk annually. By 2024, there were only 60 farmers, with Nestlé receiving 1.73 liters of milk they produce annually. The farmers are paid $5.36 a liter for raw cow's milk. The government pays Nestlé a subsidy of $1.50 for each liter. So which means we're not the most efficient producers either. I mean, let me say it's $5.50, right, to make this math simple. The farmers getting $5.50 a liter, but the government contributing $1.50 out of that as a subsidy. Again, if the government not making the money it was making before, where we getting all these set of $1.50 to pay per liter when you're talking about 3.94 million liters a year annually? The public sector getting smaller too, so it's not like we're in a case where, all right, we could give Leonard a CPAP walk. It used to have a thing named CPAP. Me know if it's other. I see Mylat in the same situation, but I think it's a little easy and it's a little bit lazy, if I'm being honest, for everybody to say, blame the government and the government not doing this and the government not doing that, when what we should probably start looking at more than anything else is ourselves, is in the mirror. We should talk about the governments and not the government, because I think we politicize these things, but I think we was always coming to this point. So even in cases like these, I wonder where the next steps are. You see, I believe it was Metanex recently. I believe Nutrien in the same situation. So you're seeing more and more companies pulling back, pulling out, back downsizing, downscaling. So you're finding a situation now where you end up with a society that get accustomed to a certain standard of living and quality of life. A society that, as I said in the beginning, get educated for free all about it, or very close to free. So you're having people coming out with all kind of degrees, and the industries where they would be absorbed starting to look like they're pulling out. So I always remember lecturing in Guyana for the first time, and Guyana, you're talking, the quality of the class in Guyana was high. You're talking people who are influential people in society in a master's class in Guyana. And I was telling them, I said, boy, listen, all you have an opportunity with oil and gas here, that you should just look at countries like Trinidad and Tobago and see what we do and see how far you could run from that. And unfortunately, in Guyana, you're seeing the same thing. The first thing you want to do when the oil and gas come, because you have the pressure of re-election all the time, the first thing you see governments do is try to ease the squeeze on the port, to quote Brian Quaitong, right? So you start to say, all right, well, I could subsidize this and subsidize that and do. And when you do those things and you create a sort of a dependency on the government, then you end up in a situation where, should that major product or that major revenue stream ever change or fall off, you have a real, like, how are you going to replace it? How are you going to replace it? But anyway, I am here again to celebrate the life and times of the great Bill Trotman. And maybe this song is about diversification too.
uptight. Let's just live right, cause we don't know what tomorrow will bring. We don't want strife. Let's just enjoy life, working hard while we're doing we thing. Let me live for today, cause we don't know tomorrow. Why do you procrastinate? Tomorrow may be too late. Let me live for today, cause we don't know tomorrow. Do right now what you could do, you might like it tomorrow too. Let me live for today, cause we don't know tomorrow.
Name of this song, appropriately named Procrastination. Appropriately so. Reading from the Express. Anna Ramdas, like going into deep waters now, you know what I mean? Barry says, I will not live in fear. Me, you wrong now, Barry? Live in fear of who? Big bad Barry like you? It says, Public Utilities Minister Barry Padarat said he's concerned that a former government minister who allegedly attempted to place a hit on his life is still walking around freely. He, however, told the Sunday Express that he has confidence in the police service and will not live in fear. I gave him right. In response to questions from the Sunday Express concerning a statement made by a man who alleged he was offered $250,000 by a former government minister to kill him. Padarat said in 2025 he was contacted by the head of Special Branch who indicated that he needed to meet with him urgently. I was at the parliament at the time. I agreed to meet with him. Minister Saddam Hussein accompanied me to that meeting with the head of the branch, and they advised that a gang leader had given a sworn statement to the TTPS that he was engaged by a former PNM government minister. I was wondering, when they say former government, I was saying was something missing. I said, well, it could be from a partnership, but a former PNM government minister to put a hit on my life. He said the police then shared some of the contents of the allegations with me, indicating that it was a figure of $250,000. And subsequently, they insinuated, without calling names, who the government minister was. That was very professional of the special branch. Insinuate without calling names. I was offered additional security, and I was also instructed that I should consider having security arrangement put in place for members of my family and the security of where I live. The minister said he was left stunned by the reports. When all they say 2025, when was the election? In 25 or 26? It was 25. This was before he was in power after. He said, yes, I was very shocked by the allegation, deeply concerned, deeply troubled by it because of the level of detail that I was made aware of and the fact that some of the persons that were purportedly involved live in and around the vicinity where I live. And I live within a constituency and operate within a constituency that I represent at a parliamentary level. Okay. Yes, I am more concerned about my young child and the ones who mean the most to me. I've taken the necessary steps to provide additional security and safety for them. He added, it is very unnerving, particularly when you have young children and you serve in public life, to have those sorts of exposures, and therefore it's always at the forefront of my mind. However, I will not be deterred. This is when the politician might come. I will not be deterred from performing my public duty. I swore to uphold the Constitution and the law and to serve without fear or favor, and therefore I will not be muzzled. Okay, damn right. Don't let nobody muzzle you. Yourself. He also disclosed that the gangster remains in police custody. Now, I don't know. This seems to be and this would be a very worrying trend. Not just a trend, but an extremely worrying trend where there's more and more talk or rhetoric or people identifying that sitting ministers of government, in this case including the Prime Minister, are their lives being threatened. Now, I always remember having to move to Jamaica, and my grandmother, poor God bless her soul, she told me, she said, boy, don't go there and get no trouble. Because Jamaica was a place you used to hear the crime reports, and you used to feel like if you walk down the road in Jamaica, you're going to get killed. And I mean, I live there, it's not the case. A vacation there, it's not the case. Jamaica is relatively safe. I mean, at that point in time, the kind of numbers you used to hear as a murder toll in Jamaica, even pound for pound, were far ahead of Trinidad. Now, I mean, Trinidad might be ahead of that race. I ain't sure where he is now. Because I know Jamaica had been under control or way, way better within the last couple of years, if I remember right. But, I mean, Trinidad, I don't know that anybody in Trinidad could say that they feel safe walking the road every day. I see a thing on Ian Allen the other day, it really hurt me. You know? a little youth man who's a DJ. Can't remember the youth man's name. But the little fella is a DJ, he had a panel van, he had equipment and thing. He going to play something, it looked like in TIC or something. And when he come out, they break in, he can't go on, the man can't. And again, this idea of contempt for business people, I don't understand it because this boy is 23 years old. You start your business, you invest in your thing, you have your equipment and thing. The boy nearly to tears talking about how they go on with the equipment, how long. And they take his first DJ controller. And he say, you know, that's something my grandmother sacrificed and give me. And you can see how emotionally attached he is to the thing. And it's a sad state we live in where I could work hard for something and I could just be taken away, including my life. I feel like that is the country we're living in. I feel like that is doubly worrying when there's this constant and consistent threat to the people who are in power. You're hearing that over and over. We heard it about this. We're hearing it about Barry Padarat now. And these are prominent figures in the government. And now we as citizens, as laymen, right? Let me talk to you now. We have a choice here to believe this or not believe this, because sometimes it sounds like political rhetoric. You know, you say what you have to say to get ahead or get sympathy. Or the politicians known for saying what needs to be said, and everything that they say seems to be to advance the cause that they have, right? But let's for a minute pretend that all of it is real. All of it is real. That there's lives being threatened and so on by people who out of power and want to get back in power. I would say that is an extremely worrying thing and something that we should pay a lot of attention to. And especially when you're in a state of emergency and a never-ending state of emergency. I've said many times, I don't think we'll ever be out of a SOE again. I think this is the new normal. This is because we see SOE and thing in COVID times, which maybe if you want to call that understandable because we have a pandemic and they need more control. But even after the SOE, the same things were being said about threats to the state. So now it being posed as, okay, and at least in this case, somebody who allegedly tied to the PNM trying to say, or a gangster have a sworn statement that somebody from the PNM trying to get him to take out Barry. But we've been here before. We've been here before when PNM was in power the last time. The threat to the state thing is what started this whole idea of the SOE. I mean, I lived through the coup. I see what that was. And I mean, we could talk about that next time in terms of how many different reasons it have for something like that to happen. But I will say that again, it's frightening to see that we're in a society where that is how we get recourse, or that is how we get where it's easy to threaten people's lives. Let me talk about the next side. No. If these things are if it's trumped up things, no pun intended, and the idea, because there can be benefit to keeping your population living in fear. There can be benefit to that. And one of the benefits is that we all agree that we should stay in ISOE because we need the police to keep control and we need the army in control and we need to always have the ability to go anywhere by anybody any hour of the night and put them in detention and not try them but keep them there because we're frightened. And if we're frightened, we could accept limited freedom when we're frightened. Let me put it like that. And I'm not sure where I stand on the fence now. Well, I guess it's on the fence. I'm not sure where I stand on the issue because I think if you're for the society to work the way it works, you had to put some level of trust in the people who are in power, right? Collectively, whether you support the people who are in power now or not, we collectively vote for them using a system that we all agreed to use, and we all agreed to say, if I lose, I still follow. And so regardless of which side of the political divide you still know, is as a society, for it to function, you had to put faith in the people. If the people saying that this is a real threat, is a real threat. What I could tell you is that the cost of doing these things starts to increase over and over, because I remember before people being detained for long periods of time, pretty much for the entirety of the SOE, and then coming out and sue the state for XYZ and winning many years later. And it don't matter who win and when they win and who in government or not in government when they win. When they win, you see that same 25% we were talking about in the beginning of the episode that we pay that should have go towards healthcare, some of it leaking and going towards these things. I will say as well that when they increase security, there's more taxpayers' dollars. Nobody increasing the security. And the Minister of Public Utilities, let me say it this way, has every right to increase his security using taxpayers' dollars, because we collectively need that man to be safe. Regardless of if you like him, you don't like him, you like his policies, you don't want to live in a country where government ministers get attacked or worse. I don't even want to say it to put it out there. You don't want that. So I am all okay. We should all be okay with them if there's a threat, increasing the security to the level they need to increase it, because we need them there and we need them to govern. You do not want anarchy. I will tell you what Hamid Ghani told me about that another time, right? So I agree with it, but I'll use an example. There was a point in time, I want to say it's last year, or earlier this year, where another government minister was, the claim was that his life was threatened. It was a public issue, this Wayne Sturge. And whatever side of the divide I sit on, right, whether I believe this or I don't believe it, or I feel it's about control versus genuine protecting themselves and so on, I am a man who, it's hard for me to concentrate, right? Stay with me. I just can't concentrate too long when I'm reading something. So when I started lecturing, to prepare for a course, you had to read over material that you probably know well, or you knew at some point in time, but you don't know. I know it to teach it, right? So I'll go over. But I can't do that at home, because once the place is too quiet and I'm in the office and I'm stuck, boy, listen, I started develop a love for cafes, right? So you could find me in a Maria's on any given day. You could find me by Adam's on every given day. Salute to Adam Aboud. For some strange reason, Adam Aboud episode is trending. Everybody going back and watch Adam Aboud. I wonder why. And Gary Aboud. I wonder, like, how come they all watching them episodes? Both of them is nearly a year old now. But I spend a lot of time in them places, because the little white noise and the people coming and maybe it's helped me concentrate and get to whatever lecture I have to do. I find myself doing that a lot with the podcast now, like to prepare for an interview and review the things the person did and try to remember all the different stuff, or even for the solo episodes, read the news, get up to date. I find myself there a lot. And there's one particular cafe that I kind of like to go to, you know what I mean? But apparently, Wayne Sturge also likes to go to that cafe. I find, like, this is me personally, right? This is just my personal issue. If Barry Paderat's life is under threat, or the Prime Minister's life is under threat, I find you shouldn't come where I go in and eat. I don't like that. And he is there doing meetings. So he will come there. And when I say meetings, I doubt is, parliamentary meeting. We meeting with people. So you'll see him come and sit down, and then a couple of people come and they meet with him and they talk, and the people leave, and then other people come. But boy, when he there, I uneasy, because now you have a secret service man. Any man you see, me don't know where they make them kind of jacket them man is wear, who this guard. I mean, I hope when Barry increases security, don't let the security wear them suit no more. Nobody don't wear them Nero neck black suit again like the Paul Bearers. We need a better outfit for these security people who guard in the Prime Minister thing. We have to do better than that. But he have them now. So I sit down eating my little tuna panini, whatever the hell I eat when I go there. And his security coming in, checking out the thing, watch people saying, then they bring him in, and then two stand up by the door. I go on and say, I coming out in here, you know, if your life under threat, we wouldn't miss or hit me. You would be good me. good me. So again, this is something again that we should all pay attention to. These are things that we should be very, very worried about. We must not let these issues die off, because these are not matters to be taken lightly. Whether they are made in seriousness and real threats are seen, or whether they are trumped up, no pun intended, these are things that we must take seriously. But again, the great Bill Trotman is why we're here, right? That's what we're here for.
I want to go back to school. Mommy, stay home in the cool. I want you to understand, I need an education. I want to learn to be fun, be a Calypsonian. But what I really love the best, I want to be in school in time for recess. Lang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang rebel. International Year of the Child.
Probably Bill Trotman did this song, right? Salute to Bill Trotman. We go close off on Bill Trotman too, but a couple more things before we ride out. From the Express, from Anna Ramdas again, salute to Anna Ramdas. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar says the police and judiciary are independent institutions and the PNM should produce evidence before these entities to prove the lawful construction of its Balize House headquarters in Port of Spain. PNM Chairman Marvin Gonzalez issued a 3-page letter. That letter was long. I ain't lying, Marvin. You had to tighten up these things. This is social media era, you know. Anytime you have to write a letter and all them kind of, you just remember you're always writing things for people who are on Facebook. Yeah? I mean, come on, that was a lot. Marvin Gonzalez in a 3-page statement on Saturday, or sent a letter, or issued a 3-page statement, taking issue with police's move to compel the trustees of Balize House to explain the funding behind its construction. Gonzalez described the move as political, or as a political witch hunt, and rejected any suggestion that there was anything improper, unlawful, or secretive about the funding of the party's headquarters or the fundraising activities undertaken by the party over many years. Gonzalez sought to explain how the party raised funds for construction, saying that well over 15 years the PNM has engaged in lawful fundraising through party activities, public appeals, initiatives, and voluntary donations from thousands of members. So, I mean, if that's the case, then habeas corpus, no pun intended. I mean, I don't think, if the police probing this and all, you build the thing in lawful means, it should not be an issue to show that. It should be relatively easy, to be honest, to show where you get the funds from to build the thing, especially with little I know about the PNM as an institution. They're supposed to have their act together and show that. I will say, however, that similar to my issue with the PNM government at the time in 2015-16, talking about the partnership and the partnership and the partnership, I just feel like if I'm back in the same cycle, I feel like the washing machine going on a rinse and repeat now, because everything with this government now is the PNM and the PNM and the PNM. And as much as I like Anna Roberts and I like the doubles and coffee, is every day is the PNM and the PNM. And I don't know that I want to hear about them at all. It's like, right, next wrongs. I don't want to hear about them till election. So the fact that they're doing a probe and stuff, again, I'm going to assume and give the benefit of the doubt, which I think it makes sense for all of us to do, that they have evidence and the police is operating independently. I cannot assume that the government is using the police to do this, that, and the third. But if the police have information about it, and they say they want to see where it is, I want that to come and go quickly. I want to raise it and decide, well, all right, we're here now. Nah, turns out them fellas and them had the thing together, and then you must tell us, well, what evidence you had to do this? We don't know. Or them fellas didn't have the things together, and people must be made to account for that. Unfortunately, I tend to agree with the great Asher Javid and Shaliza Hassan Ali, again from The Guardian, where they said, corruption investigations in TNT, high cost, little closure. In Trinidad and Tobago, most corrupt cases, if they even get there, stop at the courts. And that's before millions of taxpayers' dollars are spent on audit reports, legal fees, and commissions of inquiry. Over the past 30 years, politicians have liberally dipped into the country's purse, over 25%, to pursue corruption-related matters. Yet prosecution of such cases remains low, while most are eventually discontinued or dismissed. Only last year, Justice Ricky Rahim ruled that former board of directors and CEO of the sports company of Trinidad and Tobago breached their fiduciary duties by rubber stamping a $34 million contract for the failed life sport program in 2012. The court found that the board simply followed ministerial directives rather than acting in the company's best interest, and each of the 14 directors, as well as the former CEO, had to pay damages of $40,000 each, totaling $560,000. This is against the backdrop of a $34 million contract, right? The consequences of corruption in TNT have the ability to erode public trust and the justice system, as decades later, corruption cases involving former politicians, MPs, government ministers, executives, businessmen, and contractors brought before the courts as high-profile matters are still pending. Others had their matters dismissed, while many died waiting on the outcome of the cases. I think this is a great piece of journalistic work by Asher Javid and Shaliza Hassan Ali. The timing of this couldn't be better. And they have a lot of cases like these. I encourage you to read this article. It's in The Guardian of the 12th of July. The point she making is, I know where they put Ishwagal Baransing face big, they put Steve Ferguson case big, they put the great Franklin Canny face there big. Let me tell you all who they pay. Minister McDonald passed away in 2023 cases against her with corruption. So the thing about it is, I feel as though, like I've been on record saying that the purpose of governance and party politics in particular, and why it's so important for people to win elections, is because the whole purpose of it is really to get public funds into private pockets. That seems to be where it is. The people who are most interested in going there seem to be more interested in what they had to sort out for themselves and to get rid of the enemy kind of thing. That's the way it seems sometimes. But the truth is that I feel like a real good way to get that money, the public's purse, into the private funds, is through legal battles. So you find that government after government, party after party, administration after administration, one thing is sure go happen. You ain't sure no the infrastructure go build and thing go fix, and maybe damn thing might happen or not. But one thing that you're sure to see happen is that real people gonna go to court. Real people. Especially from the last administration, you're going to court. And the thing about it is when you go to court, it's a big deal, because when you say this kind of thing about the PNM, that is in terms of Bali's house, that emblazoned in the mind of the public now. I wonder if them first corrupt for real. And now if you had doubts, if you didn't like them already and you feel it was corrupt, it's like, yes, I'm to take them down and we can paint it yellow. That is how the reaction will be. If you had real faith in them, it could just be, something ain't right there and true. So it seems as though the court case is doing two things, or the court cases. I ain't talking about this one in particular, I'm talking about just the general idea of what administrations tend to do. Is besmirch the name of the party who came before them by throwing out things that say they're corrupt and that email gates and that live sports and that Bali's house, and like find big ideas that they have that are visible, like what do you call it now, a Brian Lara Stadium or how they call it, hospital in Couva. Find a big thing and say, the corrupt thing. And find a way to know, so you besmirch your opponent in terms of at least the reputation. Whether it's true or not, the reputation takes a hit when you do that. And then what you do now is you say, well, all right, carry it to court and get a King's Counsel, and then you get the King's Counsel to come and then we thing and then we thing. And what happens then is, by the time it finished, because 10, 15 years later, the person who was real passionate about this, like you see what Lisa Phillip passionate about this situation with Kaya Sealy, and you find that 10, 15 years from now, you get big, you and them distracted, them. You even know when the case that you were so passionate about finished. That gone. So you don't know what's the outcome of it. And most times, as it's said here by, again, Asha Javid and Shali's Arsenal, great work, because people die, matter settled. People move on, matter dropped. They get found guilty or whatever, you settle for 560 when the case was 34 million. So in other words, I want to say it's inconsequential. Even if you find them to be wrong, what happens? Nothing happens. A man go to jail, you put Panday in jail, you put Nanrad Singh in jail. You do things like this. And I not pronounce it on, but nobody innocent or guilty. I want to make that clear. The point I'm making is, it seems what is sure going to happen is hundreds of millions of dollars are going to start to move away from the taxpayers' coffers and start moving towards attorneys from all about. So I wonder if this is just a way to move little monies from outside to inside. I don't know. But again, please read the article from Aliza and Asha and Shaliza. I'll get names right at some point in time in life. And let me end this and close this episode by reading from what we really come here to talk about. From Susan Shepard. Calypso Fraternity mourns the loss of 2 veterans in 1 week. Trinidad and Tobago's Calypso Fraternity is mourning the loss of its veteran entertainers within a week, following the death of celebrity cultural icon Bill Trotman on Wednesday evening at the age of 92. Trotman's passing comes days after the death of the mighty Wanderer, 85, who died last Saturday. Both men had reputations as far more than Calypsonians, with successes in other aspects of the performing arts, locally and abroad. I want to just play a song for you if they will suffer me here in affordable imports, because I get a little Wanderer. If you ain't get a little Wanderer, what we doing? This is what this show is about. We born here playing Kaiso, that's one of we favorite things to do around here.
Marriage is honorable in all, and the marriage bed undefiled. For there is no sin in the marriage bed. So let every man have his wife, and every woman her husband.
Primati, Aji, knows very well I like she. The pretty chick from Hindustan knows well I love she as man. Yes, I go marry the young lady, and we go down to Caroni. But the Takari is my name. I planted tomatoes and sugar cane. I fall in love with Primati.
I want to marry Primati.
I tell Shinana and Shinani.
I want to marry Primati.
And also Sikaka and Kaki.
I want to marry Primati.
Let's hear music like them. Listen, it is nice to talk to all you. It is always nice to do this. I would never stop saying it, you know what I mean? It's always difficult to find the time, but when you find the time, it's a nice thing. I want to get, again, condolences to the families of the great Bill Trotman, the mighty wanderer. Men who contributed a lot to our society. We must always take time to remember them. And I mean, the way things going, I will see you later. If not next week, the week after, I will see you later soon enough. But this is one by Bill Trotman. I'll leave it all with by the name of Rat Race. I hope all you enjoy the interviews. I hope all you enjoy this episode. I hope all you have a great week, productive and nice. And I will see you all later when I see you all later.
Can you imagine that? No. Weak rat cannot survive. Strong rat will stay alive. The world come like one big fat cheese. People fighting for a piece. Now greed is getting in the way. Human is not human today. The Spanish rat, then the French rat, the English rat, them who start that. But pure rat is pure rat. Nibbling from your shoe to your hat. Rat race. Everybody joining in the rat race. They don't care what happened in the rat race. You jumping up singing in the rat race. And the rats are winning it. Rats on the road for carnival. They want to join the bacchanal. They coming to play the mass. From the first rat to the last. It's hell to keep up with the pace. When rats taking over the place. Rats, 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 rat race.
Boy, Bill Trotman and the Wanderer come out of the rat race, so it left up for me and you to fight up in this rat race. So let's stay safe, stay productive in the rat race, and I will talk to you next week.